What is up, everybody? Welcome into Talk to Me. This is episode 213. The guest this week is Thom Hazaert. He is the mastermind behind, he is the main man behind all of David Ellefson's ventures. He's the man behind EMP Label Group, Ellefson Co. Coffee, and he is also the vocalist on the upcoming David Ellefson Bass Story album that accompanies the new book. The Bass Story Tour starts July 6th in Providence, Rhode Island, and July 30th in Mankato, Minnesota. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully we will see him, well, not even hopefully, we will see him at the Rock and Pod Expo August 10th. Hopefully do a bass story around that too. That would be great to see. And from everything that I've seen, these bass stories are a whole lot of fun. Storytelling, rocking some Megadeth tunes and all that good stuff.
My name is Scott Bowling. I have a show called Good Company. Good Company is a show where we film artists in the rock genre and we talk about their first record all the way to where they are now. We've interviewed bands like Korn and Seven Dust and Rich Ward. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook under Good Company or Good Company with Bowling. So please, if you get a chance, check it out. Good Company!
Our thoughts are out to the Megadeth camp with Dave Mustaine and his recent throat cancer diagnosis. Hopefully he will battle through it. The doctors say it's about a 90% success rate, so hopefully gets in there, nails his treatment, and gets out of it, man, because we cannot lose any more of our metal brethren to anything, especially cancer. Went through that scare with my dad. Now we're going through it with Dave Mustaine. If you want to support the podcast monetarily, make sure to head over to patreon.com/talktome. Choose a tier, and that will be much appreciated. If you want to support the podcast non-monetarily, make sure you are leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any podcatcher that allows a review to be made. Facebook recommendations are always great. Share this episode when you see it. Tell a buddy, bring a friend. And you can always order a Talk to Me t-shirt. The links are in the show notes. New designs coming soon, and I can't wait to get those out to you guys. And to kick off the episode, let's listen to some classic Megadeth. Talk to Thom Hazaert. Check out some of the Ellefson solo stuff with Thom on vocals. We're going to check out a track from the band Stormtoker, doing a Black Sabbath cover, and then I will talk to you momentarily.
buddy. How are you?
Good. How you doing, man?
Yeah, same shit, different Monday.
Well, it's been a big Monday for you.
It has. I mean, honestly, honestly, it's something. This has been going on for weeks. Just we couldn't say anything, and nobody knew anything, and nobody knew what was going to happen. I mean, literally, the decision to cancel everything was literally just made a couple fucking days ago. At first it was like, we're going to do everything, and it'll be fine. And then he started his treatments, and they just realized they weren't going to be able to do it. So it's been an ongoing thing. I mean, it feels like a big sudden thing, but it's really been kind of a casual thing going on over here with them trying to figure out what they were going to do and us trying to figure out what we're going to do around what they're going to do. And, obviously everything we do kind of, works around Megadeth. So we were just kind of sitting back on fuck, what's going to happen,
Well, Megadeth's had a very odd, year because of the Ozzy cancellations and scrambling to fill in those dates, and then now you've got, Dave's diagnosis and trying to fill that time, and it's been a mess for 2019 for Megadeth.
Well, that's it. I mean, I think that's the last thing, they wanted, but after the Ozzy cancellation and everything else was to have to cancel anything. I think that's why Mustaine was so adamant about, no, I'm just going to do my treatment. We're going to keep the show scheduled, but I literally supposed to be doing, his treatments like the same time they're supposed to be doing shows. And it was just like, I think that's the last thing he wanted because of that Ozzy thing. That compounded it, because they already, and that had nothing to do with them. They were ready to go out and do that. You know what I mean? And then, it's like, look, I think the last thing Mustaine ever wants to do is disappoint fans. Anybody in the band, the last thing anybody in Megadeth wants to do is disappoint fans. So it's like, look, I think this was a really, really fucking hard decision to make, and that's why they took so long after getting the diagnosis to figure out what they're going to do, because I think he really wanted to see where he was, and if there was any way to not cancel shit, he was going to not cancel it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the one nice thing about it, and it's obviously when anybody puts something like cancer out there, or anyone happens to pass away or whatnot, I mean, you see fans come out of the woodwork, and today on Facebook has just been all thoughts and prayers and all that other nonsense out to Dave, and everybody talking about Dave, and I've definitely been rocking some Megadeth all day. So
yeah, I mean, look, the thoughts and prayers are great, and I'm sure welcomed and very appreciated. And again, that's it. I mean, Megadeth, so many people appreciate, and sometimes. They say you don't know what you got till it's gone. Well, sometimes it takes something like this for people to realize how much they do appreciate a band and their catalog. And sometimes it takes for what could be a potentially terminal illness or a death. It's really we went through that with Chuck Mosley. You know what I mean? It's like when he died, Rolling Stone and everybody else was calling him a visionary fucking genius when he was alive, and we were putting out his records. We were begging people to cover it. Nobody gave a fuck, And I touched on that a little bit in More Life with Death. There's actually a little part kind of about that, about how I wish, that we really appreciated the outpouring of love and support when Chuck died. It would have been real fucking great if those people would have supported him when he was alive, and we were desperately trying to, bring him back, put together a career and revive some things for him when he was struggling, and, nobody, was rushing to help us then. It was just me and Chuck and Dougie against the fucking world. But the second he passed away, it was like Rolling Stone and Alternative Press and everybody else. Oh, genius, Faith No More vocalist Chuck Mosley dies. You know what I mean? It's like, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, even since this podcast has been around, I had to do a Nick Menza, remembered episode too. So it's all around us. Yeah,
I know. We talked a lot about the Nick Menza thing and More Life with Death too. I mean, look, Nick obviously had such a huge, long-lasting impact on the legacy of Megadeth, and he's still such a beloved fan friend. And we finally, addressed in the book the Rust in Peace reunion and and why it didn't happen. And they really wanted it to happen. They really felt like they had to try it for the fans, but it just wasn't work. Marty wasn't there. Nick wasn't there. They just couldn't come together. And so, look, we talk about all this stuff in the book, and it's super. It was super exciting to be involved with David on that and be able to really examine and get into this minutia of these stories and things that have never been told before, and it was really great to chronicle some of these amazing chapters in Megadeth history and the legacy.
Yeah, I started reading. You sent me the book last night. I started reading earlier today. I'm about to page 100 ish. It just kind of gives you a a concept of kind of what happens, when you're not in the big band anymore. What do you do when you're not out there in a successful band like Megadeth anymore? I mean, what do you do? Dave had to get a job, and actually had to go to work for PV, and you still have to work. And when you're done,
life, it's like, no, he even says in the book, he's like, look, it was a sobering wake-up call when he wasn't the rock star in Megadeth anymore, and he had to go get a fucking job. But you know what? Whatever he did, he made an impact, though. He went to PV, and he was instrumental in the 5150 and their revival in marketing and bringing in Slipknot and Nickelback and all these. I mean, look, I don't know if you're old enough to remember, in the 80s, PV was not looked upon very favorably, in the 80s and 90s. Dave was kind of the one who I think really brought a lot of that credibility to PV that they had.
If you remember, Dave was Primer 55's PV contact. And so we were outfitted with PV stuff. And when I joined Primer, we had some PV stuff laying around. And my initial thing was, why would we ever want to have PV stuff? But then now that I've played it, there's probably some of the best stuff I ever had. I had the Ampegs and all that other nonsense, but the PV stuff that we had with Primer was some of the best sounding stuff I ever had.
Well, that's it. When I worked with Chimera and Switch, they were all using the 5150s and all that PV stuff too. And again, it was really it was kind of and Dave was really involved in that. It was really kind of a renaissance for PV in that period. And I squarely think a lot of that was David. You know what I mean? Whatever he does, whatever he puts his hands on, he does it, and he does it right, and he does it well, and he brings, credibility and levity and all these amazing things to the table on everything he does. And that's part of the gift of David Ellefson,
And the new songs you sent over sound awesome, and can't wait for everybody to start hearing those. I guess the question I have for you is, I know you've posted about it.
Yeah, let's talk about me now.
We're all about Thom Hazaert now. I sent you a message last night that you need to do a solo album, but I don't know your history of being a vocalist. But when I saw that you were singing on it, I was like, all right, let's see what Thom has. And then after a couple of songs, it's like, man, Thom, you really need to put out a solo album here.
Yeah, you know what? I've actually been a vocalist my whole fucking life. I mean, I started singing Megadeth tunes in cover bands when I was fucking 13. You know what I mean? It's like I've been, I was in bands, up into my 20s, and then I realized, I want to be on this side of it, and that's when I kind of made the transition over to management. But look, I've always been a producer. I mean, I worked with Bleed the Sky. I, produced their first demos. I got them signed and wrote. I've written a lot of stuff. I've never stopped singing. I've never stopped writing songs for bands, writing songs for myself. And again, there's a lot of records I worked on where it's literally a singer for a record singing every line I wrote and me telling him how to sing it. And again, it was just one of those things. It's something that's always been a part of what I did. I never really had that interest in, I'm going to go be in a band. I'm going to go be a singer. But it's like, look, me and David just started doing this shit for fun. And it's like, look, if I'm going to do a musical project, it's going to be something like, if anybody's going to get me to do it, it's the fucking guy from Megadeth who's been my idol since I was 13 years old. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's a huge honor to be able to do this and do these. And everybody, I mean, again, it's like, I sat with Max Cavalera and played him Sleeping Giants on my phone. And it's like, bro, I love your vocals. Very good energy. And that, it doesn't get, as a vocalist, and I'm sure you hear that in it, and I told him, I said, look, you know what, Max, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't sing like that. Sepultura and Max Cavalera especially, I mean, again, we're a huge influence. So again, him and Dave McClain and some of the guys who heard this shit and went, oh my God, it was really a validating, vindicating moment. It's like, because when you go into this and you're doing this stuff with somebody like, and look, this thing's a fucking all-star thing. I mean, Hammer comes down is like, me, Eric A.K. from Flotsam, Mark Tremonti, Chris Poland, Dave McClain on fucking drums, Joey Radziwill from Sacred Reich, Ellefson, Sleeping Giants is me and DMC, Steve Connolly from Flotsam. I mean, it's like a fucking super group thing to on top of it. So it's like not just David, it's like no pressure,
Right. I went and saw Flotsam and Jetsam, I guess, a couple weeks ago, and Eric, his voice is just, there's so many bands out there that are touring that started in the early 80s that just don't have it, and Flotsam and Jetsam is definitely not one of those bands. He sounds so good live.
Yeah, I just went and saw him a couple weeks ago. Dead by Wednesday was obviously the support on that tour, and I just went and saw him, and Wrath actually opened the show I saw too, so it's like a it was like a combat double whammy. But yeah, no, they were great, man. And AK's voice is great. He still, when we were, I'm not going to lie, he saved my ass on that song. I had the verses and everything written, and I was really stuck on that chorus part. And literally, like, AK came in, and I was in the other room, and all of a sudden I hear the other room, "Legacy of Daddy." I'm like, whoa. And he just sang that melody, and it was awesome. And then, I kind of retweaked the lyrics and some of the parts with him. But it was funny. We were listening to it that morning, and I had my vocals, which are this kind of more hardcore Pantera heavy, And David, we were both just like, we looked at each other and said, this needs a different energy. And he called AK, and he came over and did those parts. And again, it really did. I mean, it's cool because it's like, I'm doing this real heavy Pantera sort of Biohazard heavy fucking thing, and and then AK comes in doing this super thrashy, cool high, and it's a really cool, interesting, dichotomy, I think.
Can't wait for everyone to hear it out there. Like I said, I was jamming it last night.
It's actually on iTunes for pre-order now as of yesterday, and if you pre-order, get all 3 of the new tracks with me, Vultures, Sleeping Giants, and Hammer comes down as instant download grat tracks. So, and I think they might even be on Apple Music and stuff and whatever else. But I know for 100% certain you can download the record. You can pre-order the record on iTunes and get those 3 songs as an instant download.
I noticed following you on social media and things like that is the... you're kind of like almost like a Forrest Gump of metal at this time. I think about myself a lot like that.
That's true. I just dumb my way into all this shit.
Not dumb your way. You're just always there. Especially with, I'm assuming the Max and everything was the Metal Allegiance rehearsals, and you're...
It was the heavy metal pizza party.
Yeah.
We were all... The Platinum Underground is this amazing studio in Phoenix where me and David did a lot of the stuff for Sleeping Giants. It's where Joey and McLean and everybody tracked their stuff. And AK, that's where Sacred Reich just did their new record, which is fucking incredible, by the way. Just to talk about bands who still have it, man. Wait till you hear that record. I mean, I sat... And it's funny, actually, that night I sat with Phil and he played and Dave, and he played me the whole fucking record top to bottom, and I texted Brian Slagle. I'm like, oh my god, this Sacred Reich record is fucking amazing. What? Yeah, so we were all Metal Allegiance had a rehearsal for their Phoenix show at the Platinum Underground. We ordered a bunch of pizza, and we were all just sitting around hanging out, and it was awesome, man. John Bush was there, and Dave McClain, and Portnoy, and Skolnick, and Ellefson, and Max, and Troy from Mastodon, and it was like, it was literally like Headbangers Ball in 1989. You know what I mean? It was pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah, just to sit back and be in a room like that, you just have to kind of almost the inner fanboy in you has to make sure it doesn't come out.
It's always a struggle, man. Especially like, and again, fucking John Bush, man. I got to sit there and they played, Room for One More, and I'm just like, holy fucking shit. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, my inner fanboy. I'm pretty good at beating it into submission these days. But man, I grew up a huge fan of metal, and I still am. I mean, so again, it's just an honor to work with, and again, the relationship I've gotten to form with, David and Alice Cooper and Bush and some of these, and to work with them and DMC. I mean, fuck, man, I get to do a song with fucking DM. Like, I checked off my whole bucket list in like 2 months. It's like, fuck. Now what?
Now what is the truth? So earlier today, it's funny I'm talking to you today. I got a message on Facebook, and someone the literal question to me was, how can I get more people to buy my band's single? So Tom, how do you get more people to buy someone's single in 2019?
I don't fucking know. Go on tour. Be a fucking... I don't know, man. I mean, that's a very complex question. I mean, look, honestly, as a new band, the deck's stacked against you. I mean, honestly, it's almost like there's no rhyme or reason to it anymore. It's just like, oh, well, this fluke thing happened and now it's viral on YouTube. You know what I mean? It's like, look, there's still the things you can do. And again, make sure your social media is solid, build your numbers, tour as much as you fucking can, work your ass off, network. I mean, look, certain propositions will always remain true. You know what I mean? But at the same time, there's really no magical fucking formula anymore, man. It's just, I mean, look, what we do, I just throw everything I got at all times and fucking hope for the best.
I think there's something to, not having what's the word I'm looking for here? There's something to like the word of mouth. I can go on Facebook every day, Twitter every day, Instagram every day, and promote Talk to Me. But the moment someone else promotes it to their friends, I think that's when people will actually pay attention.
Well, that's it. And look, like yesterday, when we made the announcement of Sleeping Giants being on iTunes, Alter Bridge and Mark Tremonti retweeted it. And again, that's the stuff that even to me, me and David were both, it's funny, we were both like, holy shit, that's awesome. You know what I mean? It's like, to me, that's the stuff that really, and that's, again, part of why I said network, man. Network with other bands, talk about each other. Support. Look, that's what we did with EMP and Combat. It's like we created the support network of Dave's social media, which is over 1 million people, and EMP and Combat. And we've built this social media network that's as strong pretty much as any news outlet out there, anything. And we've, that's sort of our thing, is we created this network of our own thing, what I mean, where we can promote our own things. And we, do a lot of independent artist samplers and a lot of things to help independent artists. And so it's really important to network. I mean, nothing in this business it's always been important, and it will never be any less important, network and make friends and be cool to everybody and do everything you can for everybody, because it always comes back, Well,
speaking of always coming back, when are you going to start the EMP, new metal side? There's so many, like, I feel like you're reaching into like the era before us, and I think our era is coming soon.
Yeah, man, it's like I've never intentionally been, I'm going to sign this kind of band now, and I never will. Look, if I personally hate that term, I don't use that term, I never have, and look, it's become kind of accepted now. But it's funny. Look, I was one of the people who started using that term. You know what I mean? When that, hang on a second. Hang on. Hello. Hey, it's David Ellefson. How are you, buddy?
Good, man. What's going on, dude? How are you?
I'm good. I'm in the middle of doing an interview with Talk to Me. I just figured I'd answer the phone and put you on the spot.
Yeah, call me back.
I will.
Hey, let me ask Dave something.
He's already gone. Sorry.
Shit.
Why? What were you going to ask him?
My buddy Jeremy was his driver on a tour recently, and made him hold a picture of me holding a cup of Ellefson coffee as Jeremy took photos of it. I was
we'll call him back.
All right.
All right, please.
Oh, well. I'll tell me your question, and I will pass it on later. Oh, wait. No. I think he's calling me back.
All right.
This is every day. Okay. So Josh has a question for you, actually. So I said I will call you back and let him ask you quick.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Josh.
Can you hear me?
I'm sure. I think so.
Yeah.
All right, David. So Jeremy Owsley was your bus driver on your tour, and he made you hold a picture of me holding a cup of Ellefson coffee. How did that make you feel? Did he get it?
Yeah. He said he remembers that. It's all right.
How ridiculous of a moment was that for you, David?
It was pretty ridiculous, but I'm glad it hit well for both. Obviously it was memorable, so I haven't even seen the picture, but I remember doing it, so hopefully it was as good for you as it was for me.
Well, man, I appreciate it.
Well, good. Well, buddy, I will call you back. I'm going to go do this here interview and keep saying good things about you, and we'll talk in a little bit.
Yeah, call me in an hour or so when I'm done with my thing at noon.
All right, perfect. I will. Okay, there you go. So you never know what'll happen here on Talk to Me.
Right? You get a little bit of David Ellefson. That's so funny, man. I will never forget, man.
People get this. That's a snapshot into my day. It's me and David Ellefson on the phone 45 times. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, I got to do an interview. Okay, me too. That's it. That's our day every day. Especially Mondays are even crazy. Especially today. It's like, it's funny. We had whole press days scheduled for today and tomorrow, and then the announcement went out today. And I know, obviously, that changes the dynamic of everything we're doing and all those interviews. And I know, and again, and we're all, again, very hopeful for it's a good prognosis with that. And again, but it's a really, again, we're all very positive about it at the same time. It's a sad dynamic and puts a cloud over everything. And it's like, look, we all got to keep moving forward and keep doing what we're doing. But at the same time, it's like, we're all with, Dave and his brother, Mr. Mustaine.
Yeah, it's definitely been a rough day for the entire Megadeth camp, and it's but it is kind of cool being able to talk to you today, because how cool is that for you to be associated with the Megadeth camp so much that a news story like this comes down, and the first thing is like, got to talk to Thom.
Right. And again,
Bittersweet.
And it's funny. I don't consider myself an official spokesperson on any level for the Megadeth organization. But again, I am David's partner and best friend, and I did just literally write the book on Megadeth. So, I mean, again, I guess I am sort of an authority and privy to certain things just because of my position with David. But yeah, I mean, look, it's really an honor and a privilege to be involved. I mean, again, one of the literally greatest heavy metal bands of all time, and it is. But back to your question, I was I've never intentionally said, oh, I'm going to sign this genre of music or this genre of music, or again, Mark Slaughter, I fucking love Slaughter. He came out. It's been more opportunity based. Look, if and to me, new metal just became an ignorant term that people threw around, and it got to the point where, I mean, again, when the term new metal came into existence, it was honestly a derogatory term thrown around by guys in the business to describe third-rate rap metal bands that were coming up as like trying to get on the heels of Limp Bizkit and, all the bands that had come through and been really successful. Then all of a sudden, it was kind of like the 90s with all the kind of third-rate glam bands. Major labels were everybody had to sign one, you know what I mean? And again, I love a lot of those bands, and it was kind of the same thing though. The end in the 2000s, like everybody was signing, after Primer, and I mean, obviously, I consider Primer part of that, second wave of, there was Bizkit and then Korn, then Bizkit and the Deftones, and the Primers and the that stuff, and then there was some great bands, but again, it just got to the point where there was this real saturation of labels signing stuff that wasn't necessarily that good or that memorable. And that term new metal just kind of became something that elitist metal fucking douchebags that are throwing around to put in a box anything that was remotely hard rock, anything that had heavy vocals and melodic. It just became really limiting and really stupid. And now it's funny because it's become this accepted word and genre, and and it's funny, and it still to me has like negative connotation. So I'm still wrestling with coming to terms with it. I mean, again, look, that was definitely an era for me in my career. It was a big era, but before, I grew up on thrash metal and 80s metal and glam metal, and I mean, look, I love Warrant, I love Slaughter, I love fucking Motley Crue, and I love Slayer and Ozzy and King Diamond and fucking Venom. You know what I mean? It's like, it really, to me, there was no distinction. I just love fucking metal. I love aggressive music, and even with EMP and Combat, there really isn't, man. We put out thrash metal stuff. We put out, really heavy stuff. We put up black metal records. We put up the Ancient record, but then we put up Mark Slaughter and Autograph and Madam X and Mark Zavon and Dollskin. And there's really no rhyme or reason to anything we sign. And I think I kind of see beyond genres, and I just love good, heavy fucking music. And if something hits me, I'll sign it. So like if a band comes along that people would consider, but it's funny. I just heard some band on the radio the other day, and it was literally Switched. I was like, oh my fucking God, like, it's crazy that, and nobody's saying, oh, it's new metal, but it's funny, but it is. I mean, it was literally fucking Switched. I mean, again, it was the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm like, holy, it was weird, I mean, that it really has come back around where it's like, I mean, again, it was abandoned that, dropped C Korn tuning, doing melodic fucking chords and singing and screaming. And I was like, holy shit, this is Switched.
Well, I think you and I share in that that we lived through those years of when the term new metal or whatever, when those bands were huge, and then there was that lull, and then I really think right now with you saying you're hearing bands on the radio that sound like Switched, and I'm having dudes like Kane Hill on the podcast that are excited to talk to me because I was in Primer for a while, and it's just like, it just doesn't make any sense how it went from like a bad term to, oh my God, you were once in Primer.
What people don't remember though is metal. The word metal was like that in the fucking 90s, dude. Exactly. That's when Megadeth cut their hair and did Risk, and that's when Metallica did Load and Reload, and there was a time when metal was a fucking dirty word. Metal was not cool, and it's funny, and that was what, and funny enough, we talk about this, I talk about this in the book too, is, there's a part with me and Head from Korn and David, and we're kind of going back and forth, and I talk about all this in the book, And Korn revitalized metal and reinvented it in a way that it was acceptable at a time when it really wasn't. And that's what people forget. Like, metal itself was like that in the 90s, man. And nu metal, whatever the fuck it was called at the time, made it okay again. It reinvented metal and kept it on life support long enough to get healthy and come back. And, Korn led people to Slipknot, and Slipknot led people back to Megadeth and Slayer and, even more extreme forms of metal beyond that, So, I mean, look, say what you want about nu metal. I think it was the last great movement in American rock and roll, and it probably will be, because the major label infrastructure that supported it and created those doesn't exist anymore. It's not there. So, I mean, it really, more than likely, nu metal will be the last great movement in mainstream American rock and roll. I mean, period. And that's why all those bands are still huge, and all these older bands are still huge and in arenas and still relevant, because they're not making any new ones, and they're not going to. The major labels don't sign metal bands. They don't sign rock bands. They don't do that. And everything's so segmented and diluted that it's impossible to even, there's a few like Five Finger Death Punch who just kind of slipped in under the door as it was closing. But there's really not, I don't think that the mechanism even exists for a band to get that big again,
Yeah, it's insane. And, obviously having the personal ties to Five Finger, it was crazy when I, kind of got into the Five Finger Death Punch area. And then, I went and saw them over the summer last year at a shed. And I turn around and I look around and there's, 20,000 people in an amphitheater for Five Finger Death Punch. And I'm just like, how did this ever happen?
Hey, dude, I lost money promoting a Five Finger Death Punch show in a fucking bar. You know what I mean? I'm with you on that one.
Right.
I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars putting out the Ghost Machine record. You know what I mean? It's like, I get it. I'm right there. I mean, I love, but again, it was an honor to be there in that moment in history. And, I was there. I mean, I sat in a car with Ivan playing me the Five Finger Death Punch demos, asking me to put it out on Corporate Punishment. And I literally said to him, I said, look, I'm winding this label down. I'm fucking done with it, but this shit's awesome. You guys will find another label and somebody who will do it justice. And they did 3, 4, 5 months later, and then they were the biggest goddamn band in the world. And God bless them,
Yeah, it's definitely it's crazy to see how big they got. And then, you're going to, we went and saw Tool a couple of months ago, and, they sold out the arena here. And, you're getting some of those legacy acts coming through. But I think the internet and, there's so much hate out there that if you even kind of get any kind of popularity, everybody just kind of pounces on it and just starts talking about how much it sucks. There will definitely never be another Metallica that comes through and rises above, just because if there was the internet in 82, they would talk about how much this band sucks and, kill it before it could ever come out.
Well, that's it. I mean, and that's it. I think that's a big part of the issue. So again, that's why these legacy artists are doing, because again, these are the last great things that that mechanism that existed, the major labels, the billions of dollars, and again, it just doesn't exist anymore. So again, everybody's milking it for all it's worth.
Exactly.
But you're right. There never will be another Metallica. There'll never be another Guns N' Roses. There'll never be another Led Zeppelin. And again, even the bands that are getting to that mainstream success started 15 years ago. I remember sitting with Rick Sales outside NAMM over 10 years ago and him telling me about Ghost. You know what I mean? It's like, and now they're huge. But again, they've been doing it for 10, 15 years now. Five Finger Death Punch, all these bands that are finally getting success now, they've been doing it for 10, 15 fucking years. It's like, it's not like they're new. They're like, oh, they're huge. It's like overnight success. It just takes you a decade.
The decade-long overnight success. And it's crazy too. Your ties to Limp Bizkit, and they're out headlining these festivals again.
I know, they're out headlining fucking huge radio festivals. Like, where the fuck? 2 years ago, it was like they'd play a show and it was a joke. It's like, what the fuck,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people were saying.
It just shows how those things go, and it gets to a point where all the negative thing gets replaced by. And it was like that with hair metal for a long time. Like, it was just not cool at all. And then, that weird thing, that stigma kind of gives way to nostalgia. Younger kids discover it. They see it's fun. I think that was kind of the thing with a lot of that shit. Limp Bizkit was a fun fucking band. Poison, Motley Crue, Warrant, they were fun fucking bands. And I think, again, all this stuff, this music and this nostalgia that people find in it, it's just about fun. And look, if you come in my house, like you'd think I was 15 years old and it was a time warp to 1991. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just, again, I think there's, everybody kind of looks to find that part of themselves that was, to me, that was when music really fucking meant something. And my whole life and career is always kind of a journey to be in touch with that time when music meant everything in the fucking world to me. And those songs and those albums and those album covers and everything, and Megadeth and Metallica and Skid Row, and we lived or died for fucking music then. You know what I mean? And again, I think people see that and try and get in touch with that. And I think older people like us, we're all still trying to be and stay in touch with that,
Oh yeah, we're definitely right there trying to stay with it. I mean, you're describing your house. I was like, did you walk into my house and also, look around and the what is it? The everlong 14-year-old lives here.
My office is like a fucking Megadeth museum. It's hilarious. Like I live stream from here once in a while on social media, and it's literally like my office is a Megadeth museum. You'd laugh if you saw it.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about the book.
Yes, please.
The one chapter that I actually, you try to put yourself in where you were and like when all this stuff was going on. And the one thing when he talks about recording with Soulfly, I thought that was funny because he's talking about getting the offer from Soulfly. And I was actually in the room with Bobby when Bobby got the offer for Soulfly. And then he's talking about, doing the videos and stuff. And I'm like, I remember kind of being bummed that, the first video for that album came out when Bobby joined had Dave in it rather than Bobby, and I'm like,
well, the reality is, they, out of loyalty to Bobby, that's the only reason Dave didn't do more in Soulfly. And honestly, I think it would have been great for Soulfly if Dave had done more. I mean, the stuff Dave did was pretty high, and no disrespect to Bobby, Dave Ellison's fucking Dave Ellison. You know what I mean? Right. It's like him being in Soulfly. I mean, again, that's look, and it was awesome, and Bobby and Mark were great together, and again, they were a great young band, and I think that was kind of what Max liked. But look, I think I honestly, wish Dave would have done a little more, and again, it was great for Bobby, and again, but I honestly, I go the other way. I wish Dave would have done a little bit more. You know what I mean? It's just bummer timing for both of them. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, bummer timing for me because I was in Louisville with Bobby working on a new band when he got the call for Soulfly. And so, I mean, that kind of derailed that part of my life, too. So it was kind of...
Yeah, and he went and did that for a pretty significant period of time, too. I mean, he did that for a few years.
Yeah, he was on like 4 albums, so yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was in there for a pretty good chunk, But again, I think that was kind of the period where Dave was sort of... Again, hadn't quite figured out what he was going to do and didn't even know if he wanted to still do music. And again, there was a lot of inner turmoil in that whole period, So how far did you get in the book? I mean, did I even come in yet? You're on page 100.
Yeah, I just passed. I'm on about chapter 4, I think is what it said last time I checked. And, just passed the photos. Finally found photos in this book, so...
Good. I told you there was some there. I think there's 16 pages of photos, but there's some cool stuff in there, man. The photos, we really handpicked all the photos, and I think there's some really cool, there's a cool picture of Dave and Post Malone in there. There's, a cool picture of me, Dave, his son Roman, Alice Cooper, and Dash. That's a really, that was a really cool moment. We all went out and had dinner in Phoenix last year, and Melody Myers took this awesome photo that ended up in there, and again, look, I think you're just getting to the point where it gets really great. I'm excited for you to read the rest because again, it's like all that intro stuff is awesome, and that's kind of the backstory. But then you're about to get to the point where it like goes into EMP combat, Ellefson Coffee. I mean, KK Downing's in the book, Head's in the book. Dan Donegan from Disturbed is in the book. Mark Tremonti's in the book. Chris Adler's in the book. Kiko and Dirk are in the book. And you're not even to any of that yet, which is awesome. Every time somebody reads this book, I'm like excited. I'm like, oh, so how far are you? Where are you? You know what I mean? It's, I get excited because I can't wait. It's like, it's like when you're watching a movie with somebody that you've already seen and you're kind of watching their face, waiting to get to the good part.
And one thing I have to say, it's a very quick read too, because I mean, I just started a little bit earlier today and I'm just like, I'm almost ready for this conversation to be over so I can jump back in the book so I can finish it up today.
Well, good. Well, good. I definitely. I'm looking. I expect a full book report turned in by the end of the week.
Oh, it'll come through. That
would be funny. I'm going to do that. I want you to write me a book report at the end of the week. It'd be number 2 pencil, full on high school. Joshua Toomey
over in the corner, yeah, with the date and my Professor Hazaert on the other side.
Oh, that's great. But yeah, man, I'm glad you dig it. Like, the response to the book has been so positive. And again, we're both thrilled with how it turned out, and we spent a long time writing it, and it was really cool because we started it last year. Basically, the story behind it was me and Dave were in Minnesota. We've been talking for years about writing another book. Him and Joel McGyver have been talking about writing another book, maybe a Big Four thing, and it was just kind of natural. The natural course of events. We were in Jackson, David's hometown, for some coffee events, and David found this Ellefson family history at his mom's house. We went back to the Ellefson family farm, and that just led to discussions like, dude, we should put this on. Let's just write another book. And it just started. Like, literally within, Dave started sending me chapters. I started writing shit, and within like a month, we had the meat of the book written. And then I started doing all the interviews, and I got Alice Cooper in there, and Kiko, and Dan Donegan and Tremonti, and I just started interviewing all these people and getting all this stuff, KK, and it really just came together in this awesome way. And when it was done and I sat and read it and held it in my hands, I mean, again, I've never been prouder of anything in my life,
Yeah, it's got to be nice for you just to have your name on the cover like that. And I was like, damn, there you go, Thom.
It's sitting right here on my desk, and I stare at it all day, every day.
Sleep with it, snuggle with it,
a little bit.
With it,
A little bit. I keep trying to bathe with it, but I'm going through too many copies.
lost a copy in your hair somewhere.
Yeah, I need to get like a waterproof sleeve for it or something. Maybe they make one.
Well, great, man. What's the album, the Bass Story tours and stuff are coming up, and you'll be doing your songs there too.
The book is out July 16th. Sleeping Giants comes out July 19th. We are on tour on the More Life of Death tour starting July 6th in Providence, and we have like 25 shows in the East Coast and Midwest, and then we're going to have a couple book events in LA and Phoenix, and we got some Barnes & Noble signings, some FYE stuff during the tour. And obviously, with this Megadeth thing shutting down, we're going to try and, go out and do a little more where we can, while still supporting Mustaine. But again, it's like we definitely have this opportunity to promote the book and this other stuff. So, I mean, again, we're going to take advantage of the downtime and try and keep doing anything that comes up. And, so are you doing, you're going to Rockin' Pod this year, right?
I am doing Rockin' Pod again. I was actually about to ask you the same thing.
Good. Well, I'm interviewing you now. So, and this isn't announced yet. They're going to announce it later this week. But like originally David was supposed to do it. We're actually doing a combined, last year we did this PBX Expo thing in Tampa. It was great. It was me and Head from Korn and Troy from Mastodon and Mike Klink and Max Norman, and it was phenomenal. Jason Bieler, Bumblefoot, Dirk from Megadeth. But so we're going to do like a kind of combined PBX thing at Rockin' Pod with some panels and stuff, and it's going to be cool. So, but originally David was supposed to do it, and then Megadeth booked some shows in Illinois that weekend, so we had to drop off. But now I think David is going to come back, and we're going to do Rockin' Pod together, and then I think we might even try and do a Bass Story in Nashville as part of it. So we'll see what happens. But it looks like me and David will both be at Rockin' Pod now. So.
Well, definitely looking forward to that. I was bummed when he got canceled from Rockin' Pod. So yeah.
Look, kind of a silver lining in this whole shitty news today is, look, now we get to go do Rockin' Pod, and they had awesome shows at the Illinois State Fair, and it's a huge bummer they're canceled. But I think the Rockin' Pod people were thrilled, and but like I said, I mean, everything we do always kind of is dictated by Megadeth. Like, look, we had Rockin' Pod on the books, and then Megadeth announced shows. Rockin' Pod got canceled. Well, Megadeth shuts down. Well, we went back and revisiting, and now we're going to go do the Rockin' Pod PBX thing, and it's going to be a great time. David really wanted to do it last year. He was bummed because Angel and Stars were there, and those were like two of his favorite bands. I was sending him pictures, and he was like, dude, I'm so jealous. And, I actually bought him a couple records and got him signed by the guys from Angel and Stars, and he was super stoked. Yeah, so he's excited to we're excited to go out and do it. And it's going to be a crazy week because we're on tour for a month, and we fly straight to Phoenix to go do the book signing stuff in Phoenix and LA, and then we basically fly straight back to Nashville to do Rockin' Pod PBX.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. The what's the next few releases on EMP coming out?
Honestly, man, we just put out the new Last Crack record, which is fucking amazing. Honestly, there's not a lot on the schedule. I mean, again, the Sleeping Giants thing kind of was our biggest release, and that kind of took a lot of, a lot of priority. And again, it's just when shit comes, it comes. You know what I mean? It's like right now we've got the new Eternal Odyssey record out. We've just put out the Last Crack record. We've got a bunch of great stuff that just came out. We have this band Crawl, who are one of my favorite fucking bands ever from my hometown. We're reissuing some of their records on Combat, which I'm super excited about. Honestly, I don't think we've got a whole lot on the schedule besides Sleeping Giants and Crawl, and we just put out American Terror, which is actually awesome. It's guys from this band called Grayson Manor, who are really a cool fucking band that a lot of people miss, but they're awesome. And Rob, the drummer from Skid Row, and the bass player from Sugar Ray, and and one of the guys from the Funk Junkies. So it's this cool, weird little supergroup thing. It's like, it's kind of like Amen was. It's this really cool, high energy metal punk hybrid. So we just put out that EP, digitally, and the full record's coming out later this year. The new Sunflower Dead record's out. That's doing great. The new single's coming out next week. And there's always stuff coming. But yeah, look, it's right now a lot of our energy has just been on Sleeping Giants and getting that out and kind of killing it. And it's been great.
Cool, man. Well, Thom, I'm looking forward to seeing you in Nashville, August 10th, I believe it is. And
yes.
Definitely have to get David back on the podcast to promote all this stuff too, rather than just a quick one middle phone call with you.
Right? Well, we'll definitely do that, brother. Well, thank you so much. If you need anything else, I'm always here, and I make sure you turn in your book report.
Will do. What song do you want me to play off of your triumphant return to vocals?
I don't know. What song do you want to play?
Oh fuck, Thom. I don't know song titles.
Fine. Play Sleeping Giants.
There we go, man. All right, Thom. Well, like I said, man, I'll see you in Nashville.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, see you.
Triumph at funerals, we see them crying. All close to the flame, and it's never gonna change. We'll just shift the blame. Paint the barrels of compliance. Fuck the world, but keep it wired. DMT and deconspired to rid the world of living giants.
This is David Vincent, and you're listening to me on Talk to Me podcast.
Bow to me faithfully, bow to me splendidly, bow to me faithfully, bow to me splendidly.
Okay, huge thank you to Thom Hazaert for coming on the show. Always make sure and check out everything they're doing over there at the EMP Label Group. Make sure to check out their coffee. I know Chris Aiken is a huge fan. Check out Storm Toker. They are a band out of Lexington, Kentucky. Bass player is a huge Tennessee Titans fan, so I've always got to support what he does. And a great cover of the Black Sabbath song there. So hopefully see you guys August 10th, Rockin' Pod Expo, Talk To Me podcast. David Ellefson's going to be there, Michael Sweet, and so much more. And so for the Talk To Me podcast, I am Joshua Toomey, and I will talk to you guys next Thursday. The Bass Story Tour with David Ellefson starts July 6th in Providence, Rhode Island. The Bass Story Tour starts July 6th in my God. The Bass Story Tour starts July 6th in Providence. If you want to support the podcast monetarily, make sure to head over to patreon.com/talktome. Choose a tier, and that will be much appreciated. If you want to support the podcast non-monetarily, make sure you are leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any podcatcher that allows a review to be made. Facebook recommendations are always great. Share this episode when you see it. Tell a buddy, bring a friend. And you can always order a Talk To Me t-shirt. The links are in the show notes. New designs coming soon, and I can't wait to get those out to you guys.